John, we're going to talk about the show here, about the orders, about how you feel about the business, but I have to start first off with President Biden's decision not to run for re-election. Does that change the calculus at all for Air Lease as you work with government relations, regulators, etc.?
Yeah. Listen, we have worked with so many different administrations on both sides of the aisle, over the course of 40 years. I think we feel comfortable either way. We'll be particularly mindful, of course, of any tax ramifications, tax rate changes. We're a global business. So we're going to be very, very cued in on that. In terms of the aircraft side, we don't see any immediate changes or anything that concerns us at this time. So it's probably more along the lines of where corporate taxation is going.
Let's talk about the aircraft.
Yes.
You have, and I know we've talked about your backlog of orders you have for companies, for airlines that want to fly your aircraft that you've ordered from Boeing and from Airbus. How confident are you that they can get through this period here where they want to increase production, but they can't?
Well, it's going to take several years, I think, as both of them have acknowledged. And by the way, we have an A330-900 Virgin Atlantic. That's our airplane on lease to them today. But it will take several years to work through this, and both Airbus and Boeing have acknowledged it. We just have to be patient, like with the jet noise.
And well, that's part of the air show. Be patient for a second. John, Frank has a question for you. Frank, go ahead.
Hey, John, good morning. This is Frank Holland back at CNBC HQ. Last earnings, you said your lease rates had increased by as much as, hello to you, good morning. Last earnings, you said your lease rates had increased by as much as 15%. Here in the U.S., we're seeing travel demand at a record high, but we're also seeing airfares going lower. Is that the same thing you're seeing globally, and what does that mean for your business?
Not necessarily globally. We do see that in the United States and a little bit in Europe, not so much in Asia at this point in time. But, that's to be expected. There's been a snapback in travel, so a lot of capacity has been added to the market. Overshadowing that, however, is what Phil just mentioned in the supply chain. Airlines are still very worried about getting their aircraft. Aircraft demand is at an all-time high, valuations at an all-time high, and thus this was our comments on lease rates last quarter. So we don't see that changing anytime soon.
John, I have to ask you about, you are on the board for Spirit Aerosystems, and I'm not going to ask you about the deal with Boeing buying Spirit, but you do interact, both from Spirit as well as Air Lease, with Steve Mollenkopf and the leaders at Boeing. They believe that they can get past this stretch here and quickly start to ramp up production. Based on your conversations with them, how confident are you about that happening?
I'm optimistic. A lot of work has to be done, but I think I've never seen a Boeing company more focused than they are now, Phil, on righting the ship, correcting the issues on quality, and doing all of the things that we all need to see done so that they can get the confidence back of the regulators, the customers, the flying public. I am optimistic, and I do see progress.
Do any of your customers say to you, you know what, given the problems at Boeing, I want to go with Airbus before I go with Boeing, or is that overthinking it?
No, I think that's a bit of overthinking. Look, supply demand is what it is, and if airlines need an aircraft, they're going to get it from Airbus or Boeing whenever they can, or from the leasing community. That's a service we provide, and it's one of the great benefits you have from aircraft leasing. So, I think that might be overdoing it a little bit. No one has ever said, forget it, we're not going to consider Boeing. In fact, I think the industry is trying to rally around Boeing and help Boeing get through its different problems, and that's going to require more patience, and it's going to require us to work hand in hand with Boeing to get through their problems.